Hey guys, this is Jeff here in Fort Wayne with JustPoleBarns.com. As you are thinking through your building, you got a lot of questions, a lot of different options on the outside features and some inside options. So I'm going to walk you through some of them, what's worth it, what's not worth it, and where the money is best spent. Hope it's helpful. Okay, so you've got all these outside features that you have options for. I'm going to go through some of the inexpensive things. If they work for you, they work. If they don't worry about it. First thing, clear paneling. You see it a lot in agricultural buildings or maybe in some horse barns. Really inexpensive way to get free daylight. The really inexpensive and pretty cool way to get a bunch of free daylight, put a clear ridge cap right down the center of the building. Very inexpensive, and it'll light the whole building. Secondly, you can do wainscot. You can do that in 3-foot sections or 4-foot sections. Think that through. If you have a 10-foot tall building, you may want to do 3-foot. If you have a 16-foot tall building, you may want to go 4-foot. The traditional barn, you're going to match that wainscot with your roof metal. Wainscoting actually serves a purpose, practically speaking. Over the course of time in your building, you are very likely going to damage the metal on that building. A rock is going to come out of the lawnmower, your kid's going to bump into it with a dirt bike, something's going to happen, and it typically happens on that bottom portion of your building. If you put wainscoting on the bottom portion, you're literally zip, zip, and you're only replacing a 3 to 4 foot piece. You can also do Versetta stone wainscoting. The Versetta stone is going to step it up, but wainscoting is very, very minimal as an expense line. Another inexpensive way to make your building a little nicer is a roof overhang. If you are really trying to build on the cheap, don't do an overhang at all. If you need a storage box, just bring that wall straight up right onto the roof line and then put some gutters onto it. But if you're going to add an overhang, most people will do a 1-foot overhang off the roof line. It's very minimal money to extend that roof overline out into maybe 18 inches or 24 inches. It does have a purpose. It will help to keep the water just a smidge further away from your posts and your building, and it can just look a little bit classier. The other inexpensive thing you can do, and this one will vary, and that's going to be your windows. You can take a regular window, you can add muttons or grid inside the window for a very small cost. You can change from a side sliding window to a single hung or double hung window. Match the windows on your house and get some consistency on your property. It'll tie everything in together and it'll just create a better feel for your building. Inexpensive, maybe a cupola. Cupolas, you can use them to let some light in. They tend to be just more aesthetic. You're gonna have probably $1,000 per cupola on a building, depending on who your builder is and where you're at. If you want something small and decorative, add some cross bucks. If you want to have that equestrian look, all you're doing is literally making a square. It's purely decorative. Another inexpensive thing you can do is an eyebrow or a rain cover. Now, rain covers, I know that there are guys that will call them different things depending on the region you're in. So for us, I would refer to a rain cover as a small little bump out. It's going to literally pop out over the roof. Very inexpensive. You might have a few $100s in that. An eyebrow is going to be longer. The eyebrow will look a lot sharper, and the eyebrows will typically go all the way down the side of a building. They're going to be several $100s, but they won't break the bank. The other thing that's inexpensive, that if you want to just add a small bit of class to your building, this one's going to range, and that's going to be Corbels. Little small wall corbels. They're cheap. They're really cheap. Maybe $50, $100. They're not structural. They're only aesthetic. Basically, on these lower cost items, you can add a few of these things on, and even though they're kind of small here, they do make a bigger impact on your building, and they'll add a really nice aesthetic overall to your property. Okay, so the next level, our double dollar sign here, are things that this is for the guy that has the money, he wants to invest in the barn, and he wants to make it a little bit of a nicer showpiece. That's going to be where you really upgrade your windows. If you want to, You can get really nice double hung windows. You can make them match your house. If you have tan windows or black windows on your home, again, tie it all in. Add the grids in the window, get a higher quality window. Think through, are you ever going to convert this into office space or maybe even residential space down the road? If you're building a large barn and you're going for a showpiece, get the triple cupola. Get 3 of them up there, the big 4-footers, and just let people know that you got a nice barn, and it'll show definitely. Double dollar to triple dollar is going to be adding a porch or a lean-to. Now, I know that there's some guys that will watch the video and you might have different philosophies of how you explain this. For me, a porch is basically coming off the building and it is finished. We're gonna finish the edges. We're gonna finish it with a liner panel on the bottom side. So when you're sitting there, you are sitting with an enclosed porch above you. For me, I explain that a lean-to is simply open rafter. Either one of those is gonna work. The porch is gonna cost you a little bit more money. The lean-to is just simply gonna be a roof line additional over the edge of the building. The turkey tail. The turkey tail will be a little bit more expensive. Now, this is different than a standard roof overhang. The turkey tail, they look kind of cool. Of course, they serve a purpose. It's gonna help keep a little bit of the rain away, but that one's gonna cost you a bit more. Back to the corbels and then the wall gables. If you're gonna add a lot of them or you're gonna get fancy and get the large gable pieces, big blocky 6x6 or 8x8 cedar posts, and you're gonna construct these, you're definitely gonna get into the $1,000 or so mark for a guy to put that together and install it. Now, they are show pieces. That's why we love to see them on the internet, but they will cost you. So if you really want to step up your building, where you're going to invest some serious money is if you get into vinyl siding and putting a shingle roof on. The reason being, both of these require that you cover the walls and you cover the roof with OSB. On a traditional pole barn, it's literally metal right on top connected to those trusses. When you're putting shingle roof on, we have to layer everything with sheets of OSB and then tar paper. And then same thing with the vinyl siding. You have to cover all those walls with OSB. Now, it makes for a hardy building, really helps to tie things together and makes a more solid structure, but you're definitely going to have that money in the investment up front. Okay, we talked about the outside. Let's talk about the inside of your building. You've got a lot of options. Some you're going to want to do right during the build. Some you can do later on and see what's kind of worth the investment. Okay, this has been mentioned a few times before, but when you're building your barn, put house wrap on it. It's really inexpensive. You're not going to do it later on. You just want to do it during the time of the build. House wrap, you'll see it on new buildings. It's called Tyvek. It's a little real thin membrane. It actually has an R value of 1. And basically, it's going to go right on the backside of your metal. So it's going to be your metal on the outside, that house wrap there, and then your wall girts, okay? And then the posts on the building. The reason you want to do house wrap is it will cut down a tiny smidge of wind. So it does help with the wind blockage, but it future proofs you in the sense that if you do spray foam, you do not want to spray foam directly on the metal. If you have no house wrap, that's another subject. Talk to your spray foam person if you're going to do that. But house wrap is inexpensive. Vapor barrier is inexpensive. You can put vapor barrier. They have a single bubble and a double bubble vapor barrier. It's going to go, it adheres right to the back of your roof metal, and it helps to absorb the moisture as the barn fluctuates. In the Midwest, we deal with this a lot in the springtime. If you don't have it and you have a larger building, you can go into your building and it's almost like little droplets of rain that will fall off your building. The buildings that we put up actually use what's called a drip stop metal. Our buildings come specifically with a factory-backed felt lining, which serves as the vapor barrier. Pretty inexpensive stuff. Let's talk insulation. I do recommend, if you're doing research on insulation, we have a really great video where I did an interview with Tom Nye. He is 20 years been in the insulation business, and he really breaks it down, goes to the details of insulation. Any insulation is better than no insulation, okay? So any insulation is better than no insulation. And if you want to go kind of Cadillac, you're going to start with closed cell spray foam. Closed cell spray foam, it's the same stuff that they put in coolers. So that insulation barrier, even if you do 1 inch, that 1 inch of closed cell spray foam is going to give you an R value of 7. However, what it does is it helps the heat. The sun is beating on the outside of the metal, and that closed cell does not necessarily radiate the heat through the same way that just a big chunk of fiberglass insulation does. So insulation is keeping the heat out and the cold, and it's keeping the warm in up here in the Midwest. So closed cell can get a little costly. 1 inch or 2 inch on a pole barn is really, really sufficient. Batt insulation. If you want to save money, don't pay your builder to do batt insulation. You can hang batt insulation. If you did a post frame building where you have your posts every 8 foot on center, they make pole barn batt insulation. It comes in gigantic 8 foot wide rolls, and you literally can just start at the top, roll that stuff down, get you an R value of 19, something like that. Blown in cellulose, that's going to be in the ceiling. So obviously you're going to have liner panel. So you're going to basically build that barn, you've got your roof trusses, and now you're going to come back through and put liner panel on the bottom and attach it to your roof trusses. Here's the theory on blown in cellulose. You have the machine, or you paid somebody to come out and they had to drag a machine there. They had to get all of these big clumps, these boxes filled with blown in cellulose, and say it's going to cost you $2,000 to get 10 inches of blown in cellulose. If it's $2,000 to get 10 inches, it's probably $2,300 to get 12 inches or 13 inches, or maybe it's $2,500, $2,600 to get 15 inches. And that's going to change your R value of the heat leaving the building. It's going to change your R value from, say, an R33 up to an R50. Spend the extra couple $100. You're worth it. Your building's worth it. Big money investment inside your building is liner panel. Liner panel makes a barn into a gorgeous shop, but it definitely will cost you. Here's what you need to think through with liner panel. Your walls and your roof or your ceiling, it is going to require almost as much metal as it took to skin your entire building on the outside. So you're literally doubling the metal that you used, and that metal is a significant investment on your barn. That metal alone on your average pole barn is going to be, say, 20%, 30% of the overall cost of the materials. So it's definitely investment to add that liner panel. If you're looking for something more solid, a lot of guys will do OSB or even plywood at the bottom, and they'll run them 4 foot wide, 8 foot tall. So when you come into the shop, you can hang anything you want to. You can, use it. You can screw things into the wall, and then you can do liner panel above it. But you got a ton of options there. And then, of course, any interior framing. Interior framing is cheap. It's just the cost of 2x4s or 2x6s, whatever you're going to use. This is all stuff that you can do later on with a buddy. That's something you can do later on as well. We get a lot of bids, a liner panel. They'll typically have us come in and maybe do the ceiling because nobody wants to get up on scaffolding and mess with the metal. This is a lot easier with a full crew. Batt insulation you can do yourself to save some money. Obviously closed cell spray foam. These two, do them every time you build a barn. One thing to think through, if you're gonna build an office or you wanna do some interior framework inside of your building, imagine if you have a 14 foot tall building and your loft inside or your little framed in office space is 8 feet. You've literally created a loft right here. So now you've gained that extra storage space. So you don't necessarily have to bring that wall all the way up to your truss line, but as you do that, and now you probably either want to add yourself a ladder or build a nice set of stairs so that you can use this additional area. Hey, I hope the information was helpful as you're thinking through the process of getting a barn built. Stay in touch with us. You can subscribe to the channel, and we'll keep putting out some good content to help you guys in your journey. Appreciate it.